All right, everybody, welcome back to the Giants rebuild here on Madden 24. So, after watching what was going on during the offseason free agency and seeing some of my most favorite players on the Giants go, I started to see such a crazy chance and opportunity to rebuild this team in a way that could be pretty interesting. The Giants no longer have players like Saquon Barkley. They don't have players like Xavier McKinney anymore. So what do we do? A little bit about this roster here. We are starting right at the Super Bowl. And in order to do some of the things that have occurred during this offseason, you have to take into account certain aspects of the game. One, in order for you to get the people to cut and trade those parties based on what was going on, you have to turn off the injuries. So that is some of the realism that you have to take out of it, right? So, for example, for us, Daniel Jones tore his ACL. He's probably not going to be back until the beginning of the year, if not maybe the end of the preseason. You have other players like Mike Williams, who tore his ACL in the beginning of the in the middle of the year as the Chargers. He was also able to be cut. In Madden, you can't cut players that are injured. So that hurts the possibility of moving and maneuvering the roster. So I had to do that in order to allow myself the opportunity to make waves with players and allow them to move on. Every player, as of midnight on March 15th, I have moved players around based on what was stated in free agency signings and re-signings. So you'll see certain players like Tyron Smith, who was just accepted a couple hours ago to be the new left tackle for the Jets. You also see a player that was traded by the Ravens, Morgan Moses, for certain picks. And that was another reason why I decided to allow myself this grind, because it took me probably like 3 or 4 hours to do this in 2 days. It allowed me to maneuver certain things like the draft picks. So certain teams, right, were making moves. For example, the big one I'm excited to see in this upcoming draft is the trade of the Texans giving up the 23rd pick. That was the Browns trade, a part of the Deshaun Watson trade initially. So the Texans traded out, and they gave the freaking Vikings a 23rd pick. It was such a weird trade, but they did it nonetheless. And so we have that move in here. Any of the other trades that occurred, for example, the Commanders trading Sam Howell. We have trades for that have occurred. Or recently, the Eagles giving up some picks to allow them to get, guess who, Kenny Pickett onto the Eagles. So I did all of this to ensure, one, I want to see how exciting the free agency, the remaining of the free agency is going to be, right? As you can see, my team has dropped drastically with losing certain players like McKinney and Saquon Barkley. So we're going to have to work through that and figure out how to build our team. But how did I do it? So in order to get that done, you have to go over to two components. One, when you start the league at the Super Bowl, you're going to go ahead and turn off pre-existing injuries. Once you do that, it will pretty much activate everyone who was on the injured list, and that gives you the opportunity to make the trades, cut them based on what was happening in real life. Another thing that I had to do is I turned the difficulty all the way down to very easy to allow me to make the trades, because as you can see, some of those trades would be quite hard to do if you left it at the normal difficulty or easy or anything above normal. So you have to do that, and you have to go ahead and enable it to humans so that the other CPUs not do anything crazy like the Chiefs aren't trading right now or anything like that. And you have to turn off the trade deadline. When you do that, it gives you the ability to start trading during the Super Bowl time so that you can make the moves and get that part done. So that's how I had to do it. Now, my recommendation on how I captured all of those moves, and unfortunately, there's no way for me to upload this because I started in this spot. But in order for you to do it, like my recommendation is there is I just did a search for, Giants signings. And when you do that, ESPN actually has a search result that says ESPN Giants off-season signings, off-season moves. That's the one you want to click because it not only gives you the players that are moving around throughout the year for each team, and I did this for all 32 teams, but it also gives you the opportunity to see what the contracts were too. So I tried my best to make the contracts as realistic as possible, which is why you may not see as much movement in the next episode related to some of these teams or even us. Based on what I'm seeing here, when you look at my salary, the rollover is going to be quite small. I actually have a penalty of 42.4 this year, which means I'll have no rollover. If anything, I'll have 38.9 million minus the 4 million over the penalty since there's no rollover. So I'll have like maybe $18 million to mess with in the upcoming season. Who knows? I may have more. I'm not quite sure, but as you can see, like it's going to be tough. And you got some other teams like the Falcons who are pretty much, I had to remove some capital in order to get some of these moves to happen. But there were other things I also did. Certain players like Jason Kelsey, I went ahead and removed him off a team since he had retired. There were certain other players as well that are projected to be retired or have retired. For example, Leighton Vander Esch. It looks like in the next couple weeks, he is going to probably retire. More than likely, he just failed a physical, and it's due to the neck injury that occurred during the regular season with the Niners. So more than likely, his career is done. Byron Jones is another player that was in free agency where more than likely he is done. He had that report of him having an issue with stuff. So I went last year where he could barely run and walk. So there were some other things I decided to do as well. I reduced some of the overall for Tre'Davious White. Chase Young, I reduced some of that. Bakhtiari as well. Darren Waller for the Giants is projected to be retiring as well due to the fact that that has a lot to do with the reason why the Giants picked up a couple tight ends to try to cover what was about to happen. So he's about to announce his retirement as well. Mike Williams reduced some of his OVR as well as his dev trait. So Isaac and Tre'Davious White. So like there were some things that I had to do, but I went through everything. You look at the trades that I did. These are all the trades. This one right here just happened just so I can bring Austin Schlottman over from the Vikings, who's a backup. But these are guys that are now not going to make the team, so that's why I did that. Or aren't even projected to be re-signed. As you can see, the Kenny Pickett trade is involved in my stuff. I also moved some players from the Raiders just to get them onto the right teams as well. Cardinals were trading with the Raiders really just to, like I said, I did that to get Bilal Nichols over to the right spot. These are guys that are not going to make the team for the Raiders, or as of this point haven't. The trade between the Texans and the Vikings have been done. The trade with the Texans and the Niners for Malik Collins is done. The trade for Morgan Moses is done. Keenan Allen, I traded him, so now the Bears are set. You got the Mac Jones trade over to the Jaguars, and you got Dante Jackson being traded over to the from the Panthers to the Steelers in return for Deontay Johnson and a pick. So I did everything I could possibly do up until March 15th. I may give it another day because I'm trying to think about what's going to happen to Justin Fields. And in this series, right, like who will be out there and who will make a difference, right? There's still tons of players that are out there. You got a left tackle like Trent Brown. You got corners like Gilmore, Howard. You're talking about a legit free safety in Justin Simmons. Jadeveon Clowney's still out there. You know, what's going to happen with Jamal Adams or Marcus May, Eddie Jackson, Connor Williams is out there. Pat Pete got cut by the Steelers. Odell Beckham got cut by the Ravens. So who is going to make it? Jerome Baker was cut. Leno was cut. So we may make some moves based on, you know, some of the cash we have. Isaiah Wynn hasn't been signed. So there's still some, you know, big potential splashes in this free agency for this series. But that's what I did so far. So I wanted to show everyone what I did. And I'm looking forward to this. You'll see a video in my YouTube channel that talks about the 2025 offseason that I was doing for the Giants. But as soon as I was building that out, stuff was happening in the league. And I was like, man, how fun would it be to rebuild the Giants based on what we're dealing with right now? And you know, this is the most up-to-date team. Got Runyon on the team, Illuminor, Evan Neal. You know, we're going to experiment with this side right here. You know, do we move to the outside, Neal on the inside? But we're going to give that type of stuff. Steiny coming over from the Buccaneers. You got Manhurts. Lawrence Kager got an extension for a year. We also got Jack Stoll from the Eagles as well. Wide receivers. The only change was Isaiah McKenzie. You know, the running back group, it's Devin Singletary and Eric Gray. So there's some players that I may cut like Corbin. We'll see what happens there. On the defensive side, right? Brian Burns is here. We got Okereke, Micah McFadden, and Kayvon Thibodeau. And you got Dexter Lawrence here, which is amazing. And I actually need to upgrade that real quick because he lost his dev for some reason in the when it gets to the Super Bowl. But there ain't no way. Dexter Lawrence is the X factor. And guess what? With the injury of or the retirement of Aaron Donald, which I also have in the game as well, you know, Dexter Lawrence is probably going to be the best defensive tackle out there outside of Chris Jones. But, you know, we don't have corners. So we're going to have to work through all of that stuff there. But all the other teams around the league are going to be going through some things as well, right? Like I said, you got stuff going on with some of these teams. And if you ever want me to just kind of show what I did for your squad, let me know. But like the Jaguars look like a very under the radar squad. They got Gabe Davis, Duvernay. They look like a kind of a sick crew. I think the Jets getting Tyron Smith now. The O-line looks pretty clean in a way that could make things work out. You got the Lions picking up DJ Reader, which I thought was a pretty sick move. You have the Panthers that have rebuilt and retooled that O-line with Taylor Moton, Robert Hunt. Corbett moving to the center is what the projection is supposed to be. Damian Lewis coming from the Seahawks, and then you got Ika Mekwonu. You know, you look at the Raiders, right? The Raiders they're sticking with Uncle Rico and Gardner Minshew, but do they take a quarterback in the draft? Who freaking knows? They got a really crappy running back crew, and that has everything to do with the Packers snagging up the dog, Josh Jacobs, and then A.J. Dillon gets like a fourth-year offer, which is like very rare to use. So that was kind of neat. So he's back. So I tried to do this. It took, like I said, it took me a couple hours to do. Some people are just, you know, getting the roster and then starting in the beginning of the year, but I didn't want to do that. For me, I just felt like it was not right, and it kind of just messes me up. But, you know, hopefully we'll see some things happen here in this league and in this series. It's going to be fun. I really believe it. I think some of these teams have some really possible options here. There's actually a player I got to cut. That's Allen Robinson, so I'll do that after this record. Just want to show everyone what I was doing. If you like what you saw today, man, please drop a like. Let me know what you think. But I'm looking forward to this series. It's going to be fun. Can't wait. And hope you all join me on this. Please subscribe to keep up with it. But the Giants episode is going to be coming out in about a week. We're going to be talking through the off season. I kind of want to figure out how I want to dress up the recording and everything, but it's going to be fun. And we are using a draft class. It is a real draft class here. That's something I want to give a heads up. This is from Falcons ATL. If you are on PlayStation, go ahead and do a search for him via online ID and just type in Falcons ATL, and that is the most up-to-date draft class for him as of March 15th. So I think it's going to be fun. We'll see what happens. I'll probably give it a couple days before I kind of boot this series up because I want to see if maybe something happens with Justin Fields. Maybe someone else makes a move for something else. You know, Justin Simmons would be kind of neat to see where he goes. But if he doesn't, it'll be fun for our series to figure out what happens to him. So until next time, everybody, appreciate everyone stop by. And as always, for my series, let's go Big Blue. Have a good one.